Thank you. I'll confirm when we're live. Yeah, I can confirm that we're live now.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending this virtual meeting of my Children's Services and Young People Decision Day. This meeting is being webcast on YouTube via the County Council website. Now, I believe I'm correct in saying that my understanding is that there are no deputations today at this meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And there is one key decision to be considered by myself here today, and that is the COVID winter grants, the funding for schools, colleges and early year providers. The recommendations are set out on pages 1 and 2 of the report, which members of this meeting have in front of them. But could I ask Suzanne Smith, please, to give us an overview of the contents of the report and the recommendations? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sallard. So this report seeks approval for 2 initiatives to be funded by the COVID Winter Grant. COVID Winter Grant is funding that's been made available from central government. It was announced on the 11th of November that Hampshire would be given £2.89 million to fund financially support families with food and fuel and other expenses over the winter period. We've worked with partner organisations across Hampshire to identify the best way to spend this money and target vulnerable families. And this decision is seeking approval for 2 initiatives. The first of those being free school meal vouchers that we would like to issue to all children who are eligible for free school meals. But in addition to that, all children who are open to a social worker, all children who are open to early help services, all children accessing childcare and eligible for early years pupil premium, and all 16 to 18-year-olds who were previously eligible for free school meals. And that will mean that over 34,000 children in Hampshire are given the opportunity for having meal vouchers this Christmas period, but also into the February half term. The value of those vouchers for those children will be £1.56 million, and that's the first recommendation in the report. The second recommendation seeks approval for £290,000 worth of funding to be granted to schools and colleges across Hampshire for them to use by way of discretionary grant. And we hope that schools will use this funding to provide financial support, but also potentially equipment, clothing, bedding, support to families who are vulnerable. And it doesn't necessarily have to be those who are also eligible for free school meals. It might be that there are families who have recently become more kind of financially constrained as a result of the pandemic, and we want schools and colleges to be able to support those families. We feel that they're in a good position to know the needs of the families that they're working with. So that's the second decision that we're seeking approval for. There are some further decisions that will come to a decision day on the 9th of December, but these 2 are required urgently so that we can get funding out to schools and colleges at the earliest possible opportunity, such that they can pass it on to families before the end of term on the 18th of December.
Thank you very much indeed, Suzanne, for that very, very quick overview of what is quite a complex and comprehensive paper. Steve, did you want to add anything to that which Suzanne has already said?
No, I think Suzanne's summed it up very well. I think the bit to note really is that the reason we've brought this paper to you to take the decision today is simply because we need to get the money out to schools so that they can buy the vouchers. And then we've got a more considered paper coming to you next week, which puts in place the other bits of the jigsaw in terms of support for families during this period.
Thank you. Right. Members will know that I've already had quite a couple of thorough briefings on this document, but I do notice that free school meals will total, the vouchers going to schools, that is, will total 1.56 million. And then on top of that, there's a total discretionary grant going to schools totaling 290,000. So what balance does that leave to take forward to the second tranche coming up in December?
It leaves just over £1 million to be allocated in the remaining decisions.
Right, thank you. And now the schools that are getting this sum of money, this discretionary grant, the amount that each school will get will be calculated based on a formula?
It will be based on the number of children that they have on roll. So in paragraph 21 of the report that sets out the funding bands that we've used, we've decided to adopt quite a simplistic methodology that doesn't take into account things like deprivation, because we are trying to target a really broad range of households, particularly those who may only recently have come into financial hardship.
Yes, thank you very much. We're going to give the money to schools in order for them to buy their own vouchers as they see appropriate. Have we got cooperation from the schools? Have we sought cooperation from the schools?
Yet we undertook a very quick survey with schools. 332 of Hampshire's schools and colleges responded to that, and 71% of those establishments expressed a preference for vouchers given the time constraints that we're working with.
So we don't anticipate any problems with, so long as we can get our decision out, and we don't anticipate the schools having any problems being able to deal with this in terms of their capacity.
We don't believe so. The feedback we've received has been mostly positive. However, if schools do struggle to purchase the vouchers, for example, if they're experiencing a closure or low staffing, then there is support from the county council available to them to help them purchase the vouchers and distribute them.
And one last question. I'm very concerned that these vouchers not only go to the people who need them, but that they are also spent on essentials such as food. How can we ensure that will be the case?
So some of the voucher providers that are in the marketplace do place restrictions on what the vouchers can be used to purchase, and we've set that out clearly in the guidance that we've provided to schools. We have also contacted the remaining voucher providers to ask them if they can work with us to restrict purchases if possible, or give clear guidance about what our expectation is for the use of those vouchers.
And that was going to be my final question, but I just thought of another one. How will we monitor this? How will we know that the money has been spent appropriately and that people are not sitting on cash funds?
So the voucher systems that schools will be using allow the school to log in and see whether or not the vouchers have actually been redeemed. All of the systems offer a way in which you can get your money back if vouchers aren't redeemed. Some of the companies charge a management fee for that, others are free of charge. And again, that's something we've set out very clearly in the guidance that we've provided to schools, and something that we've asked them to consider when selecting their voucher provider.
And similarly for the discretionary grants, and schools will need to account to us for where that grant money has been spent.
Yes, so all of the funding that we pass on will have its own grant agreement attached to it that set out our expectations of the educational establishments. For the discretionary grants in particular, we've asked that schools provide us with reports back around how they've spent the money against the grant criteria set out in the report. And we'll also be undertaking some spot checks in January to assure ourselves of the way in which those grants are being used.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chad, I don't know if you wanted to ask a question.
No, I have no questions. Thank you, Councillor Stallard.
Does anybody else wish to ask any questions at all? No? Right. Well, can I just say I am so pleased we are in a position to be able to do this to help our young people. It's a wonderful opportunity for them to get the kind of support that many of them we know will desperately need. I'd also like to thank the members of staff who have managed to turn around this report and make this decision day possible in such a short period of time. That was no mean feat, and everyone has worked extremely hard, so my thanks to everyone involved. But if I can turn now to the recommendations on pages 1 and 2, the first recommendation is the approval of the grant of £1.56 million to schools, colleges and early years settings for them to purchase the necessary vouchers. And I note that will cover about 36,000 plus or 35,000 children. So that is really a tremendous achievement. The second recommendation is for the discretionary grants for schools and colleges, based on the formula that Suzanne Smith has described, which will make it possible, make it flexible for schools to be able to respond to the individual needs of the people that they know locally. And if there are no further questions, then I am very happy to accept the recommendations set out on page 1 and page 2 and give my approval for those decisions to go forward. So thank you all very much indeed for coming. I don't think there's any further business now. So can we please stop the webcast?
Thank you. Please can the webcast now be